Have you ever done everything right and still watched her walk away? You were kind, you were patient, you respected her space. And yet, she grew colder, like someone dimming the lights in a room you used to call home. You start to wonder what went wrong. Because nobody tells you this truth. Attraction isn't logical, it's emotional. And sometimes, even she doesn't understand it. There are patterns, quiet, invisible, that pull her towards certain men and push her away from others. Not because of looks, not because of money, but because of energy, presence, power. In this video, we're not talking about tricks or manipulation. We're uncovering the psychology of genuine attraction, the invisible forces that make a woman feel safe, drawn, and deeply connected, without you having to say a word. So if you've ever been confused by love, if you've ever felt unseen despite your best efforts, stay. Because by the end of this, you'll never look at attraction the same way again. Type this in the comments as a declaration. I choose to understand, not chase. Let's begin. The steadfast man, the calm in her chaos. In a world that moves too fast, where people vanish after a few messages and promises mean almost nothing, a steadfast man feels like gravity. He doesn't rush to prove himself, doesn't beg for attention, doesn't disappear when emotions run high. He stands his ground, quietly, calmly, like a lighthouse that never needs to shout to be seen. Women today live in constant noise, messages that lead nowhere, words that sound sweet but fade by morning. They've learned to expect inconsistency, to brace for disappointment even when something feels right. So when a man simply shows up, when he says, "I'll call you at 8, and does when he follows through without fanfare, something inside her softens. It's not excitement, it's not drama, it's relief. Because consistency is safety, and safety is the foundation of attraction. It's not about being boring or predictable, it's about being the man whose presence feels like quiet strength, the man whose steadiness says, "You can rest here, I'm not going anywhere." Being steadfast doesn't mean being emotionless or unbending, it means being anchored. You can feel everything. Desire, frustration, confusion, but you don't let those feelings control your direction. You move with intention. You keep your promises, not for her validation, but because your word means something to you. Every time you follow through, every calm response you give instead of reacting impulsively, you're shaping something invisible, trust. And trust is more magnetic than charm, more lasting than beauty. So don't tell her you're reliable, let her feel it. Let her see it in the rhythm of your actions, the patience in your tone, the steadiness in your eyes. Because the world is full of men who chase excitement, but she'll only remember the one who made her feel safe enough to breathe. Confidence, the quiet fire within. Confidence isn't a roar that demands to be heard. It's a steady flame that never flickers, even when the wind rises. It doesn't need to announce itself, doesn't need to prove its worth through noise or performance. Real confidence lives in silence, the kind that holds its ground when others crumble. A confident man moves through life with quiet certainty. He's not trying to convince anyone that he's enough. He already knows it. That knowledge wasn't given to him. He earned it, through failure, through rejection, through the nights when everything fell apart and he had no one to turn to but himself. And that's why women feel it. They can sense it long before he says a word, that calm steadiness in his presence. It's not arrogance, it's peace. A peace that says, "I've been through the fire and I'm still here." Confidence isn't loud laughter at a crowded table or showing off success online. It's choosing restraint when you could react. It's knowing your value when the world overlooks you. It's walking away from attention that costs your peace. Every time you honor your word, you add another layer to that quiet strength. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, whether it's waking up early, finishing the work, or refusing to chase what isn't meant for you, you build something no one can take away: inner authority. Women are drawn to that kind of man because he doesn't seek permission to exist. He doesn't need her validation to feel powerful. His calm speaks louder than any speech could. Real confidence doesn't shout, doesn't rush, doesn't prove. It radiates, softly, steadily, like heat from a fire that's been burning all night. And in that stillness, she can't help but listen. Ambition, the motion that never stops. There's a rare kind of electricity in a man who wakes up with purpose, the kind who isn't just surviving another day, but shaping one. Ambition isn't about greed or ego, it's about meaning. It's the quiet fire that keeps you moving forward, even when no one's watching. Women feel that energy. They may not always put it into words, but they're drawn to men who are going somewhere. Men whose eyes have direction, whose actions carry weight. Because a man with vision creates his own gravity. He doesn't need to pull people in. His movement does that naturally. You don't need to be a millionaire or a CEO or the next great name in history. You just need to be in motion, building something, pursuing something, becoming something. Because ambition is a promise you make to yourself, a quiet vow that says, "I will not waste my life waiting." When a woman senses that in you, she feels it, that drive, that focus, that hunger for growth. Not because she wants to take credit for it, but because it makes her feel alive too. Ambition is contagious. It awakens the same fire in others. So stop talking about what you plan to do. Live it. Let your discipline speak louder than your dreams. Let your progress show her the kind of man you are. And when you talk about your craft, the project that keeps you up at night, the thing that gives you purpose, let that spark in your eyes do the talking. Because it's not about impressing her. It's about living so fully that she wants to be part of your journey, not the destination. A man in motion doesn't chase love. He simply moves, and love can't help but follow. The mystery, why the bad boy always wins and how not to be him. Every woman says she wants a good man, and she means it. But what she doesn't always realize is that kindness without mystery feels like a song that ends too soon. Predictable, safe in all the wrong ways. The so-called bad boy wins not because he's cruel, but because he's unreadable. He doesn't hand over the map to his soul on the first date. He leaves space, silence, questions. He keeps her heart awake. But mystery doesn't have to come from chaos. It doesn't require games, mixed signals, or disappearing acts. True mystery is depth, not deception. It's the quiet confidence of a man who knows that not every part of himself needs to be explained, shared, or proven. Keep pieces of your world sacred, your solitude, your ambition, your inner thoughts. Let her earn access to them, because what's freely given is quickly forgotten. Mystery isn't distance, it's dimension. It's the art of leaving space for curiosity. When you allow her to discover you, slowly, through your actions, your calm, your discipline, she stays engaged. She leans in, wondering what moves beneath your stillness. Let silence do part of the talking. You don't need to answer every question right away. You don't need to react to every emotion. The man who can sit in stillness, unshaken, unhurried, becomes infinitely more intriguing than the one who rushes to please. Because she doesn't want perfection. She wants depth, She wants the sense that there's always more to learn, more to explore, that your story doesn't fit into one conversation or one night. Be that man, not the bad boy who plays games, but the good man who remains a mystery she never stops trying to understand. Scarcity, the value of your attention. We live in a world where attention has become the cheapest currency. Everyone gives it away. Likes, comments, messages, endless scrolling. But the man who values his attention, who guards it like something sacred, becomes rare. And rare things are always desired. A woman today receives more validation in a day than past generations did in a year. Compliments, reactions, hearts. It's constant. And because it's constant, it's lost its meaning. Most of it is noise. So when you don't add to that noise, when you don't rush to reply or compete for her attention, you stand out. You become the silence she can feel. Don't withhold attention as a tactic. Do it as an act of self-respect. Protect your focus, protect your energy. Every time you choose not to chase, not to double text, not to perform for her approval, you're saying something powerful without a word. My time has purpose. My presence has value. Your attention is not a free gift. It's a reflection of your standards. When you give it freely, it loses its worth. But when it's rare, deliberate, and intentional, it becomes something she must earn. And when she finally earns it, she'll feel it, not as another like or comment, but as something that actually matters. Because in a world starving for attention, the man who gives his sparingly becomes the one everyone wants to be seen by. Pre-selection, the echo of desire. Desire echoes. People are drawn to what others already find valuable. It's human nature. When something is wanted, admired, or respected, it gains weight in the eyes of everyone watching. The same is true for you. When a man is naturally surrounded by women, friends, co-workers, or even casual acquaintances, it tells a silent story. It says he's trusted, respected, and emotionally safe to be around. It says he brings something to the table that others appreciate. And that presence, that quiet validation from others, speaks louder than any self-promotion ever could. You don't need to fake this or manipulate it. You simply need to live a complete life. Have female friends. Respect women without needing anything from them. Build connections based on authenticity, not conquest. Because women can feel the difference between a man who chases approval and one who simply earns admiration by being himself. Pre-selection isn't about surrounding yourself with attention. It's about demonstrating value without words. It's about showing that women trust you, that people enjoy your presence, that you're comfortable in your own skin. When a woman sees you like that, something in her subconscious stirs. She begins to wonder, what is it about him that others see? And that curiosity quietly grows into attraction. Because admiration inspires desire, but respect builds it into something lasting. Be the man women respect, not just the one they notice. That's where real magnetism begins. Masculinity, the power of emotional strength. Masculinity isn't the noise of control, it's the silence of certainty. It's not about towering over others or forcing your will. It's about being anchored when the world starts to shake. A masculine man isn't the loudest voice in the room. He's the calm presence that changes the atmosphere without needing to speak. True masculinity begins where emotional chaos ends. It's in the man who doesn't panic when plans collapse, who doesn't lash out when he's misunderstood, who doesn't let anger define his reactions. He feels everything, but he doesn't become what he feels. He lets the storm pass through him without letting it destroy his center. Imagine a still lake. No matter what's thrown into it, wind, stones, rain, it always returns to stillness. That's the essence of masculine power: stability, restraint, depth. Women don't crave brute strength. What truly draws them in is emotional steadiness, the energy of a man who makes them feel safe without a word, simply because his presence doesn't waver. When she cries, he listens. When she rages, he remains calm. When life tests him, he doesn't beg or break. He adjusts his stance and endures. You become that man when you stop reacting to everything that tries to provoke you. When you stop letting emotion dictate your next move and start leading with awareness instead of impulse. That's emotional gravity, the quiet pull of a man who commands respect, not through force, but through presence. Because in a world full of noise and volatility, masculinity isn't about being the storm. It's about being the mountain that stands unmoved beneath it. And the moment you learn to hold that stillness, the world and the woman beside you will feel it. Leadership, the grace of guidance. True leadership doesn't shout, it doesn't demand, it simply moves with purpose, clarity, and quiet strength. A real leader doesn't force anyone to follow him, he inspires them to. That's the difference between control and guidance. Charisma isn't manipulation, it's leadership wrapped in warmth. It's the subtle art of making others feel safe in your direction. A woman doesn't want a dictator. She wants a man who knows where he's going, who moves through life with intention, and who can lead without arrogance. When you take initiative, when you plan the evening, choose the restaurant, walk with confidence, you send a silent message. You can trust me to steer this. It's not about dominance, it's about direction. It's about saying, you don't have to worry, I've got this. But leadership without empathy is just control in disguise. The strongest men lead with heart. They read the room, listen before acting, and make decisions that consider others, not just themselves. A woman feels safest when she senses both your authority and your awareness. Invite her into your rhythm, not your rule. Lead the dance, but stay attuned to her steps. That's where connection lives, in the balance between strength and sensitivity. True leadership isn't about always being right. It's about being responsible. It's about being the calm in confusion, the clarity in chaos. When you can guide with confidence and still make room for her voice, you awaken something ancient in her: trust. Because a man who knows where he's going doesn't need to prove his power. He simply walks, and the world and the woman beside him follows naturally. Emotional intelligence, the language beyond words. Emotional intelligence is not about being soft, it's about being steady. It's the strength to stand still in the middle of someone else's storm without losing yourself in it. Women are emotional, yes, but that doesn't mean they're fragile. It means they feel deeply, see subtly, and crave connection that runs beneath the surface. Most men panic in the face of emotion. They rush to fix, to explain, to escape. But emotions aren't problems to solve. They're signals asking to be understood. When she cries, she's not asking for a solution. She's asking to be seen. When she's angry, she's testing the strength of your calm. When she pulls away, she's asking if you'll still stand firm when she's not easy to love. That's where emotional intelligence becomes magnetic. It's the quiet confidence to stay composed, to listen fully, to let silence speak louder than defense. It's the ability to say, without words, you can bring your storms here. I won't break. Presence without panic. awareness without judgment. That's what makes a man unforgettable. Because when a woman feels emotionally safe, she opens in ways that no physical attraction ever could. She relaxes, she trusts, she connects. Emotional intelligence isn't weakness, it's mastery. It's knowing that power doesn't come from control, but from composure. It's staying grounded when emotion rises, responding instead of reacting, hearing the meaning beneath her words. The man who can do that doesn't need to talk about strength. He embodies it. He becomes the calm her heart searches for when the world overwhelms her. And that, not charm, not confidence, not looks, is what builds the bridge between fleeting attraction and lasting connection. Passion, the fire that keeps her there. Every woman wants to feel a man's fire, not the kind that burns out after a few sweet words, but the steady flame that comes from purpose. Passion isn't something you say, it's something you live. It's the light in your eyes when you talk about what matters to you, your craft, your goals, your calling. Real passion is not about romance or seduction, it's about direction. It's about waking up with a sense of mission, even when nobody's watching. Because when a man has that fire, it changes the way he moves, the way he speaks, the way he occupies space. You can feel it before he says a word. That's the kind of energy that draws people in, especially women. It's not about impressing her, it's about living so fully that she can't help but be moved by it. When she sees you alive in your purpose, she feels safe to dream again. Your fire awakens hers. But here's the truth. Passion isn't easy. It requires devotion. It means showing up even when you're tired, even when no one believes in you. It's the refusal to go numb in a world that rewards comfort over courage. And that's why it's so magnetic. Because a man whose flame burns from within doesn't rely on approval to stay lit. He doesn't chase love, he becomes love in motion. Find what sets your soul on fire and pursue it relentlessly. Build, create, explore. Because when you live with passion, you stop chasing women. You start attracting kindred souls, people who recognize the same fire in themselves. That's what keeps her there. Not charm, not promises, but the quiet, undeniable glow of a man who's fully alive. Closing reflection. Becoming the man she can't resist. Attraction isn't a trick. Attraction has never been a game. It's a reflection. It mirrors who you are, not what you pretend to be. The harder you chase, the faster it slips away. But the moment you turn inward and build yourself, your discipline, your peace, your purpose, something shifts. You stop chasing, and life begins to chase you. She's not truly drawn to your appearance, your charm, or your success. Those things might catch her eye, but they won't keep her there. What captivates her is the quiet strength of a man who doesn't beg to be chosen, because he's already chosen himself. That kind of energy can't be faked. It's calm, grounded, deliberate. It doesn't need approval, doesn't crave attention. It simply is. So become that man, the one whose presence speaks before his mouth ever opens. Be focused enough to walk away from distraction. Be patient enough to let timing unfold. Be passionate enough to stay faithful to your purpose. And when she notices the change, when she finally looks at you differently and whispers, "What happened to you?" Don't explain, just smile. Because what she's really sensing isn't mystery or manipulation. It's mastery. And mastery, over your mind, your emotions, your direction, is what makes a man magnetic. The moment you stop needing to be chosen is the moment you become impossible to resist. Final call to action, short and poetic. If these words reached you, don't just watch, transform. Growth doesn't happen by accident. It begins the moment you decide you're done repeating old patterns. So if something in this message stirred something in you, a spark, a question, a quiet ache, don't let it fade. Subscribe. Stay with this journey. Walk with men who are learning like you to turn silence into strength and pain into power. And in the comments below, write this as a promise to yourself, not to me, not to anyone else, but to the man you're becoming. I am no longer chasing love. I'm becoming it. Because that's what this path is about. Not chasing what's outside of you, but awakening what's already within. The world doesn't need more noise, more ego, or more men pretending to be strong. It needs men who are grounded, men who can be calm when others are chaotic, men who lead without boasting, love without losing themselves, and stand firm when everything else wavers. So make that vow tonight, not loudly but quietly, the way real change begins. This is your moment to rise, not by force but by presence. Because the world doesn't need louder men. It needs steadier ones. And if you've made it this far, you're already becoming one of them.